Hey guys, so at the beginning of every Book of Mormon is the testimony of the 3 and the 8 witnesses. The 3 witnesses claimed that an angel came down from heaven, and he brought and laid before our eyes that we beheld and saw the plates and the engravings thereon. This is a big deal because previously Joseph had been commanded not to show the ancient Book of Mormon record to anyone. But suddenly these 3 witnesses and several others are all saying, yeah, they're real, we've seen them. What are we supposed to do with that? Did Joseph somehow trick them? Were they lying and co-conspirators with Joseph? Or could it be possible that they were just telling the truth?
You serious?
In the next few episodes, we're going to take a closer look at each of the 3 witnesses, starting with a man named David Whitmer. David Whitmer was introduced to the prophet Joseph Smith in 1829 through Oliver Cowdery, who was a school teacher and Joseph's scribe. As persecution increased in Pennsylvania, Joseph and his wife moved into David's home in Fayette, New York, where Joseph finished translating the Book of Mormon. In June of the same year, the witnesses saw the plates. David Whitmer fell away from the church in Far West over disagreements with Joseph in 1838. He soon moved to Richmond, Missouri, where he operated a successful livery stable. He was a member of the city council and was even elected mayor of Richmond. In 1884, the St. Louis Republican wrote, "The honesty and excellent character of the Whitmer family are substantiated by the people of Richmond without exception." In 1847, a few years after Joseph died, David started an offshoot of the church which quickly dissolved. He resurrected it in the 1870s and he died in 1888. Throughout David's life, he went to great lengths to make it absolutely clear that his testimony of seeing the angel and the Book of Mormon plates was absolutely true. And you'll be able to read those later on in this video. Instead of grappling with his many statements, many critics of our faith attempt to brush them off by giving you reason to doubt his character or experience with whatever sources they can find, which aren't many. For example, you might run into this quote from David: "If you believe my testimony to the Book of Mormon, if you believe that God spake to us 3 witnesses by his own voice, then I tell you that in June 1838, God spake to me again by his own voice from the heavens and told me to separate myself from among the Latter-day Saints." People often misunderstand this quote as David saying that God told him to leave the church. But in context, we see that that's not at all what this quote is referring to. David was no longer considered a member of the church by April 1838, but he still lived with the saints in Far West, Missouri. Unfortunately, a vigilante group arose among the saints known as the Danites, led by a man named Samson Avard. I need to do an episode on them. Anyway, in June 1838, Avard sent David a letter telling him to leave or else a more fatal calamity shall befall you.
Leave this place or die.
He's not claiming God told him to leave the church, but rather to leave town to escape Danite persecution. The quote holds no bearing on the validity of David's witness of the Book of Mormon. Another influential quote critics cite comes from a guy named John Murphy, in which he calls into question the reality of David's witness. Again, what you don't hear is that when David heard about what had been published, he was livid, and he published a response which you can pause and read. While some of the details of David's recollections varied slightly over the course of 60 years, his testimony of the angel and the plates is incredibly solid. He testified of its truthfulness after being tarred, feathered, and threatened by a mob at gunpoint. He testified of it on his deathbed, and the guy even had his testimony carved into his gravestone. So, he was either tricked, lying, or telling the truth. The witness of David and others is so strong that even some of the most popular antagonistic authors from Joseph's day until now seem convinced that the witnesses at least thought they were telling the truth. Their theories are that Joseph was a skilled magician or wizard, or Joseph hypnotized the witnesses, or unconsciously induced hallucinations.
Trust in me.
Or contrary to plenty of witness statements, the witnesses only imagined their experience, that it was a dreamlike vision and not physical reality. You're free to believe as you see fit. Personally, I just think he was telling the truth. Check out the links in the description for more info on this and enjoy this montage of statements from and about David Whitmer. Feel free to pause and read as many as you'd like. I've highlighted some of my favorites.